Chapter 18 of Gold by Stewart Edward White. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Beginnings of Government. Our visit to the town we postponed from day to day because we were either too busy or too tired. We thought we could about figure out what that crude sort of village would be like. Then on Saturday evening, our neighbor with the twinkling eye, whom we called McNally, without conviction because he told us to, informed us that there would be a miners' meeting next day and that we would be expected to attend. Accordingly, we visited the town. The street was full of men idling slowly to and fro. All the large structures were wide open, and from within could be heard the sounds of hurdy-gurdies, loud laughter, and noisy talk. At one end of the street, a group was organizing a horse race, and toward this Don Gaspar took his immediate departure. A smaller group surrounded two wrestlers. At one side, a jumping match was going on. Among the usual incongruities, we saw some that amused us more than ordinarily. The Indians, for example, were rather numerous and remarkable. One wore as a sole garment an old dress coat. Another had tied a pair of trousers around his waist. A third had piled a half a dozen hats atop, one over the other, and many had on two or more coats. They were, to a man, well drunken. Their squaws, fat and unattractive, squatted outside the single store of the place. We saw also a dozen or so white men, dressed very plainly and shabbily, tall, lank, spindly, rather weakly in general appearance, their faces sallow, their eyes rather childish but crafty and treacherous, their hair thin and straight. The points in common were pointed, nearly brimless hats, like small extinguishers, and that they were the only men to use suspenders. They were from Pike County in Missouri, and in our experience with them, we found their appearance a close indication of their character. They were exceedingly skillful with both axe and rifle, were expert backwoodsmen, but without physical strength, very childish and ignorant, vindictive, narrow, and so extremely clannish and tenacious of their own opinions that they were always an exasperating element to be reckoned with in any public matter. We also saw a compact little group of dark, small men, with bright eyes and quick manners. They held close together and chattered like a lot of magpies. McNally, who had spotted us from afar, informed us that these were Keskedis, and that they always did stick close together. "What are Keskedis?" I asked him. "That's what everybody calls them," said McNally. "I suppose it's because they always say it, Keskedy, Keskedy, like a lot of chickadees." "French!" cried Johnny, suddenly enlightened. "Keskedy." "Yes, that's it," agreed McNally. "Keskedy. What does it mean, anyway?" "What is he saying?" translated Johnny. At this time there were a great many French in California, and for a number of years I could not understand why. Then I learned that most of them were prize winners in a series of lotteries called the Lotteries of the Golden Ingot. The prizes were passage to California, and the lotteries were very popular. The French, or Keskedis, as they were universally called, always went about in gangs, while the other nationalities were more inclined to amalgamate with the rest of the community. We saw also several Dutch Charlies, who had struck it rich. They were moon-faced, bland, chuckle-headed looking men, generally with walrus mustaches, squat and heavy, with fatuous, placid smiles. I suppose they had no real idea of values, but knew only the difference between having money and not having money. These prosperous individuals carried 2 or even more watches at the ends of long, homemade chains constructed of gold nuggets fastened together with lengths of copper wire. The chains were looped around their necks, about their shoulders and waists, and hung down in long festoons. We had 3 apparently, of these Dutch Charlies, all deadly rivals in magnificence. They paraded slowly up and down the street, quite satisfied with themselves, and casting malevolent glances at each other when they passed. The two gambling places and saloons were hard at it. The low rooms were full of smoke and crowded with slowly jostling men. In contrast to the deadly quiet of such places in San Francisco, these were full of noise and hubbub. The men moved restlessly, threw down their little bags of dust impatiently, and accepted victory or defeat with very audible comments. The gamblers, dressed in black, pale, sat steady-eyed and silent behind their layouts. I suppose that life must already have developed, if not a type, at least a uniform mental attitude that showed itself in outward expression. That was, first of all, an intent, quiet watchfulness, and secondly, an iron resolution to meet whatever offered. The gambler must be prepared instantly to shoot, and at the same time he must realize fully that shooting is going to get him in trouble, for the sympathy of a mining camp was generally strongly against him when it came to a question of this sort. We treated ourselves to a drink at the bar and went outside. Already the drift of miners was toward the end of the street where a good-sized crowd had gathered. We fell in. Under a large oak tree had been placed a barrel and several boxes from the store, and on these latter our friend John Semple, the carpenter, was mounting. "John's the alcalde," McNally explained to us. "He's the most level-headed man in these diggings." Most of the miners sat down on the ground in front, though some remained afoot. Semple rapped sharply on the barrel with the muzzle of his revolver. "This is a miners' meeting," he stated briefly, "and we have several things to talk about. Most important thing, according to my notion, is this row about the big nugget. Seems that these here three men, whose names I disremember, is partners, and is panning down there in the lower diggings. And while one of them is grubbing around with a shovel, getting ready to fill the company pan, he sees this here nugget in the shovel and annexes it. Now he claims it's his nugget, and the rest of them claim it belongs to all of them as partners. How about it?" Two men sprang to their feet and began to talk. "You set down," Semple ordered them. "You ain't got nothing to do with deciding this. We'll let you know what to do. If the facts ain't right, as I stated 'em, say so, but we don't want no theories out of you. Set down, I say." They